Hello everybody and welcome along once again to I think it's the 98th edition of the Rebel Wild Ball, and I suppose this weekend could be described as All-Ireland Hurling final weekend, and of course to be playing it on the 17th of July as against the 1st of September, or the first Sunday in September, is a considerable leap of faith for some people, and I know it's going to take a while for them to get used to it, but this is the new reality, and as we keep saying, on so many occasions, this is all done for the greater good of the club player. Anyway, before we look at that, I suppose we have to look back at last weekend and what it brought us and what it taught us. And of course, the big success was the Tailteann Cup final, won by Westmeath in brilliant, entertaining circumstances, a brilliant game of football. And we saw some video footage on social media. Even the national broadcaster had to depend on it to bring us the scenes that greeted the homecoming in Mullingar, and there's no doubt that this competition is here to stay. The big, I suppose, debate now is there room for another competition, maybe for teams down at Division 4 level that, you know, are well removed from the Tailteann Cup. I would imagine the likes of Waterford and Waterford and teams like that are as far away from the Tailteann Cup as the likes of Westmeath are away from the Sam Maguire. So anyway, that was that story, absolutely brilliant. Of course, it was disappointing as well to note that the Cork ladies footballers, there was a major shock. I suppose they conceded 2 goals against Mayo. We thought they were going to win that one, and Mayo took their and when Cork got chances, then they didn't take them. And I suppose what was even more surprising was that, you know, to learn in the aftermath, excuse me, that Dublin were beaten by Donegal, and Meath almost went out of the championship, winning by a last-minute point against Galway. So it's Meath and Donegal now on one semi-final, and the other semi-final will be Mayo and Kerry. Kerry had a good win over Armagh. So it's a wide-open championship, but I suppose, look, Meath will be the favourites there. In terms of the camogie, as we said last weekend, Cork are into the semi-final, and they'll be really interested in, I suppose, the pairings, who they'll get in the draw after this weekend's semi-final. Both of those 2 quarter-finals, Limerick are playing Clare and Kilkenny playing Dublin in the other one. We can't but not mention what happened in Croke Park, the game on Saturday between Galway and Derry. The first half was poor fare now, to be honest with you. A lot of, I suppose, really defensive setup, and I'm glad that Galway won it. I thought they were a better team than Armagh. Even though they depend on penalties at the end to win that one, they were a far better team than Derry. And I know that those who follow the fortunes of Derry is wonderful year for them, winning the first Ulster Championship in ages, but the type of football they bring certainly won't work in Croke Park. Thankfully it won't work there. And Galway, Damien Comer getting a couple of brilliant goals, Shane Walsh capitalising and scoring great frees as well. But of course the big game was the one on Sunday, where Kerry eventually got over Dublin, first time since 2009 that they have beat the Dubs in Championship. And my God, I was just thinking after, like, had Dublin, Conor O'Callaghan, Paul Mannion and even Jack McCaffrey, there's no doubt in my mind now, had they all stayed together, just 10 All-Irelands they would have won. And you saw how close they came to Kerry last week, even with Conor O'Callaghan missing. But what a way to win it for Kerry. Wonderful point by Sean O'Shea in the end. And for those who've been following the fortunes of this young footballer from Kilmare, like, since he was young, he's still young. Like, he was always a talented footballer, but there were, as you well know, there are so many talented athletes out there. But what had kind of impressed a lot of people on hearing the stories about the commitment of this young man to his trade, if you like. And, you know, I see there earlier on where he turned down, thankfully, a chance to go to Australia. Don't get me going that one. But that point in the end will be talked about forever. And by the time it went over the bar, well, there was probably 1 million viewers picked it up, and since then half the country has seen it. What an advertisement for Gaelic games, and it just showed the amount of and in the lead up to that point, you may remember that Paul Murphy won possession, and 9 times out of 10 today, in a situation like that, safety first, hand passed it off, but he went with the boot and he kicked it up the field towards David Clifford, who was well marked and well marshalled after a magnificent first half. What a brilliant footballer do you know something? It's a joy to see this fella playing. And when that, like, had the Dublin player won possession on that occasion, and then went down the other end of the park and over the bar, which could have happened no problem. It was so close. I mean, we'd hear nothing, only Kerry bottled it, Sean O'Shea's penalty be brought into question. So yeah, it was a wonderful game, and of course, Evan Comerford, by God, he has learned from the master, but you know, when he went down injured that time, you can't let a game go on when a goalkeeper is down injured. Like, a referee will tell you that any other player can be replaced, but you can't replace a goalie insofar as that you can say take him to the side of the pitch and treat him. And obviously the work came in for Evan Comerford because Johnny Small had been sent off. This fella is no stranger to this kind of activity, and they were counting down the minutes. But look, at the end of it, two teams gave it their all, and it's amazing. I suppose from a Dublin point of view, the one worry they would have on reflection is that it was the more mature players, and Kieran Kilkenny is by no means an old player, but he's there a long time. He was outstanding, so too was James McCarthy. But it was a fabulous game of football, look, and in a week's time, for now, we'll be looking at what the All-Ireland final will bring us. But this weekend is all about the All-Ireland Hurling final, played in its own, by the way, as well. No minor curtain raise or anything like that. That has already been done and dusted. 3:30 between Kilkenny and Limerick. And I suppose if we were to go back at the start of the year, Kilkenny or Limerick were always going to be the side that we fancied, but certainly not Kilkenny. But they've come through it in fine style, winning the Leinster Championship, and then got over Clare. And I suppose maybe that's good for Limerick in a way, like in that, how many titles? Kilkenny have won this thing 36 times in the 135-year history of it. They've also lost 25 finals. They've the most won and the most lost. Whereas Limerick, you have to go way back. When they won last year, it was their 9th victory. But like we witnessed 3 of those in 2018 and 2021. And you have to go back then as far as 73, 1940. So it's incredible for Limerick to be in this case. And as I say, good teams can win in All-Ireland. Good teams, you have to be a good team to win in All-Ireland. Great teams do the double, but very few do the 3 in a row. And so many teams have been denied of it. So this is Limerick's, if you like. I suppose, I'm not saying this is their ambition, but it sets them apart from everything, from a huge amount, from all other Limerick teams that went before them. And I suppose, look, you have to fancy them going into it, but there is a fella called Brian Cody in charge, 24 years, has won the All-Ireland on 11 occasions. So I'm not too sure, I don't know enough about it, to be honest with you, as to how we should call it, but I suppose if you look at it simply from a scoring perspective, TJ Reid is the main scoring forward for Limerick. For Kilkenny, I should say. Then you're depending on maybe Owen Cody after that, whereas Limerick have a plethora of players that can score, none more so than Aaron Gillan, who's been absolutely outstanding. But just imagine that they did find a back to mark him, and we saw with Tony Kelly the last day where we had Mikey Butler able to keep a close eye on him and nullify his influence. But then you have other players that will step out, like they have a half forward line that lined out the last day of Gerard Hagerty, Kyle Hayes and Tom Morrissey, and all of those can score. And of course the half back line, then you Dermot Burns, who can score from long distance as well as from frees. So I think that when you look through, definitely Limerick will be the team I would fancy to win it. Whether they can or not, we'll have to wait and see, and that's the wonderful thing about it. Colm Lyons from Limor Rangers is the man in charge of the whistle, and of course it's an important day for him, great day for his club and his family. And where is Hawkeye in all of it? Well, as you know, it packed in last week. On seemingly the report that came out of Croke Park yesterday said that was only a malfunction. It only malfunctioned for that game, and it was interesting that the scores half time was it ended up 4-3 after that score was not allowed, but Galway refused to come out on the pitch unless that point was added to the scoreboard. And I can only imagine, and we saw those of us watching it, the guys making phone calls. I mean, in whatever year we're in, to be at that level But look, somebody said it was the day that hockey became human. Errors are made, and whether it's in operation or not for next Sunday, I probably think it will be. But it was a big moment. So for what it's worth, I think that, you know, Limerick are going to go on and win the 3 in a row. But if, my God, if Kilkenny could win this one, it would be the sweetest of all. From I suppose, from Brian Cody's point of view, the last one they won, it's back in, was it 2015, I think, was their last All Ireland. That's a long time by their very, very high standards. So that's the story in that. The other big GA matches that we have, well, I suppose this weekend, it's the 2 Junior B Finals that will be down for this, that are down for decision at 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, and both of them in Cork Jun. You have the hurling first, and that game is between the Randall Oaks and West Cork, who are now chasing. Last year they were beaten in the Junior B final, but they won the Junior B football. It's their 7th adult final in 8 months. The small club. I think they will do the business. They're playing Fremont, who are, I'm not too sure what's their stronger team over there, but for their sake I hope it's the hurling, because they were beaten well last week in the Junior C football final. So it's going to be a big occasion, obviously, for those 2 teams. And I just have a fancy for Randall Oak and that way things have been going for them. And you remember last year when we told you that they played 29 weekends out of 29 were practically the same team. And then at 5 o'clock you have the football decider between Father O'Neill's from East Cork, and I know that Father O'Neill's and Diarmid O'Mahony's from West Cork. Father O'Neill's, I think this is their first time maybe in this Junior B final. I've no doubt that they're capable of maybe even playing at a higher level, and they had a huge panel out there the last day, and hurling is the big game down there, obviously, but I do think that they're going to be a formidable side for Diarmid O'Mahony's, who've been, you know, had a big win in the semi-final after when they played Garnish. It went to extra time, and they drove on from there. So that's the big one in terms of Gaelic games. And of course this time next week we're going to be talking about the commencement of the Cork County Championship, where there's going to be 25 games down over Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And if you like, that's when the real GA, from my point of view, will take off. And I saw last week whereby, you know, people were saying there was a very low profile a build up to the Dublin Kerry game and so on, and like, they're this is going to be used now as a stick, if you like, to beat the close season, because they, you know, from the 24th of June after the football final there'll be no more of the county stuff, and you know the GA will be accused or whatever of losing out to other sports. But my God, look at the opportunity there was to promote themselves during the season. But I think they're going to have to grasp this one, and I have to laugh at some of these former players saying, you know, that this needs to be done. I remember the late Wishy Fogarty, Lord of mercy in his soul. He was a broadcaster for Radio Kerry, and meeting him once or twice and telling me that, you know, he gave up talking to some in the county players, that they were so dismissive of him, and that's the story. But I think that the G are going to have to grasp this. You can't make players talk, you can't make managers talk, but I think that bobs will have to be spent, press conferences will have to be organised, and like from press conference stories will emerge, media will come along if they are to be treated properly and players are made available for them. So I'll be interested in seeing an improvement big time in that scenario. On Tuesday night the draws were made for the concluding stages, if you like, of the Cork, you know, this colleges divisional section. Well, in football, Cabri will be taking on UCC and Duhallow will be taking on MTU in the 2 semi-finals. Those games will be taking place in mid-August. I think it's the 17th of August on the Wednesday night anyway, and the finals will be played on the Sunday evening. The hurling, Avondhu will play UCC and Imokilly play MTU. So when the 2 finals then are played on Sunday night, the 21st, we will know who's going to be represented, the divisional colleges in the quarterfinals of the championship proper. This weekend is a big weekend for the road bowling fraternity, and I'm absolutely a bit surprised to see that the senior bowling final is taking place Sunday in Lyre at 2 o'clock. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take the final, but clashing with the All-Ireland hurling final, I think it was a great idea, but maybe they'll be finished by then. And it's an unexpected pairing, if you like, for those who follow road bowling. Seamus Sexton from Ned, recently he won a gold medal at the European Championships, and he will be the favourite taking on Michael Bohan, who's originally from Cork but now living in the Newcestown area. And as I said, both of them won fancied, but they had big wins in their quarter final and semi final. That Seamus Sexton getting the better of James O'Donovan and Martin Coppinger, these would be top ranking players. And Michael Bohan for his efforts got over Aidan Murphy and Arthur McDonough, who was the All-Ireland champion. In soccer, most of the talk at the moment is about across the water transfers and tours abroad and whatever, but nearer to home, the season is, well, there's a bit to go on it yet, but in Division 1, Cork City a point ahead, a game less played than Galway, but the two of them meet in Cork, Turner's Cross on Friday night. That should be a real... Galway will so want to win that game, and I believe they've signed a few players recently that will make should make them a bit of a more potent force. But it's a match that Galway have to win, and I think if Cork win it, that they're well on their way to be crowned champions. Cove Ramblers, on the other hand, who are on a 15-match losing streak, will take on Waterford down in Cove. So it's, I suppose, all the time they're important matches for them. And finally, in rugby, this time last week we were talking about how Ireland started their tour poorly against the All Blacks, being beaten by the Maori All Blacks, then beaten in the first test and beat comprehensively in both of them, and how things have turned around considerably for them, winning the second test last Saturday in some style, where Corkman Peter O'Mahony was absolutely outstanding. And then in the midweek game, which was played on Tuesday, again they came from behind and they defeated the Maori All Blacks. Was it 30-24 with Gavin Coombs getting his second tour try. And this is one player, obviously the fact that he's from West Cork maybe makes us a little bit biased, but I think it's only a matter of time before this man makes, and probably could be included, gets his place, getting full Irish caps and being a regular feature. But anyway, this Saturday, the last match of that tour takes place again at 8:05, where they play the All Blacks. And the win last Saturday morning was the first by an Irish team in New Zealand side, which was, that's a considerable scalp. But if they were to win next Saturday, it would be the crowning glory to win the Test series. And by the way, some of you will know that Paul O'Donovan, who won another gold medal at a World Cup regatta last weekend, himself and Gavin Coombs are actually first cousins. Teddy O'Donovan, Paul's father, or Gary's father as well, himself and Regina Coombs are brother and sister, so incredible DNA there. And the Irish Rowing Championships will be taken this weekend, and Paul O'Donovan and a lot from Skibbereen Rowing Club will be involved. Finally, in golf, for those of you that follow that particular sport, it's I was going to say the British Open, but we can't use that term anymore. It's now known as the Open, the 150th edition of it, some history in it, and it's on the old course in St Andrews, starting today and Friday. And, after 2 days, then they make a cut. There's 156 players head out in it. Seemingly, any amateur whose handicap doesn't exceed 0.4 can take part in qualifying rounds. And there is one Irish amateur golfer from Saltine, Ronan Mulroney. He'll be one of the 7 Irish people taking part in it. 4 of the Irish lads involved have won this in the past. Rory McIlroy, Shane Lowry, obviously Padraig Harrington, and Darren Clark, you remember him. And of course you also have Seamus Poe taking part, as is a guy called David Carey from Castlelock in Dublin. So who knows, 20 or 30 years ago, if you're talking about an Irish winner of a major championship, it wasn't on, but like such is the success of Irish golfers in the past, everything is possible now. So yeah, on our Ireland hurling weekend, hope you get to watch it, hope you get to enjoy it. But until we meet again, thanks so much for your company, whether you're, I know how, listening in or watching in. But until we meet again, you do take care.